Hi, everyone who's watching. My name is Jane,
I'm Jacob.
and we're from Icon Church. We're actually based at the Chesterfield location,
Yep.
and we're part of the team that oversees the children's ministry here in Icon Church. You might have heard of it. It's called Goo Kids. If you've been to one event, you will have heard of us by now. But yeah, we just wanted to kind of bring some thoughts to you today. Hopefully, they're helpful thoughts around the idea of how do we kind of pursue our kids' ministry in the light of COVID, in the light of the pandemic that we've all been in for nearly a year now. And gosh, it's a year almost, and we're
Crazy.
still kind of not out of it.
Yeah.
But you know, it makes us think that a year is an awful long time for us not to have been engaged very much with our own families and children in church. And, you know, for a child, 1 year is a massive amount of time in their life. So, you know, to be out of church for much of that time and not seeing us as children's ministry leaders, I'm sure you found the same in your own church, that it's been difficult. And difficult as well to kind of connect as well as engage with our children, because obviously they're children, they're not adults, and it's a lot more difficult to connect with them. So we thought that we'd just bring you, for what it's worth, a few ideas as to how we have managed this last year.
Yep.
And so we're going to kind of do it conversation style. I'm going to ask Jacob a few questions, and then he's going to ask me a few questions, and we'll take it from there. Okay.
Should be
You
good.
all right, Jacob?
Yeah, I'm good. Here.
Brilliant. Yep.
Great.
So, Jacob, you have been massively involved, really, with the online
Yep, that's right.
part of what we have provided. Now, before COVID, we ought to kind of say that we didn't have anything online for kids, really. Not very much,
No.
anyway. Maybe some communication with families,
Yep.
but nothing specifically for kids. And so Jacob has been very much part of a team that seized the opportunity, really, as soon as we went into lockdown, to provide something online.
That's
So I've
right.
got a couple of questions
Yep.
for you, Jacob. So my first question really is, how did you get started with the online stuff that we've done?
Yeah, like you said, we didn't really have anything out there before. We had a lot of, I'd say, informative or ways of connecting with parents, but nothing that was really aimed at the children. And so as soon as lockdown was announced and we weren't able to meet anymore, a lot of what's the word? A lot of thanks goes to a young couple in our church called Ben and Rachel, because their heart was that we needed to get something out for the children, and they actually approached you about that.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And literally the first week we couldn't be there, we had a video out there because they were just like so excited and so desperate to get something out there to keep the Goo Kids and the kids of Icon Church connected. And so a lot of thanks goes to them. But they built a team of I don't know, probably 8 or 10 of us, came up with a program. Like, they're literally amazing. Just really, really had a heart to see our kids connected into church. So yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a willingness there, wasn't there?
Absolutely.
And just the vision that they could do something. Obviously, they didn't do it on their own. I mean, I think what you've got to think about is you've got to work with the creatives that you've got within
That's
your
right.
church. And fortunately for us, we were already streaming services online. So we had a team of people that they could approach. They didn't just do
that's
it.
right.
So it was like a collaborative
They got the ball
thing.
rolling, and Ben in particular is brilliant at editing and stuff like that. So between the two of them, they managed to come up with a plan and get people to film bits, and then they edited it and put it together and then put it out there on YouTube. And just the creativity, like you said, you've got to use your creative. That's what we did. And started straight away and really went off really well, and just brilliant ideas as well to try and keep kids engaged. So it wasn't like the same thing every week. We had different series. So we had like a movie series, we had a talk show series, like loads of just different ideas to try and keep kids engaged as well.
Yeah, which kind of leads me on to my next question, really. How do you keep kids engaged when you can't actually physically connect
Yeah.
with them.
I think that's probably been the hardest thing about it. I mean, we talk a lot about how much the kids miss being in church, but as a kids leader, as a GU leader, I realise how much I've missed being able to have that relationship with the children. Like from going to seeing them like every week in church, every couple of weeks in kids' church, to then not seeing them at all or only being able to talk to them through a screen has been really difficult for me personally. And so I found myself trying to really not oversell, but really, and not hype up really, but really just explain in detail how much we care about them, how much we love them through the YouTube videos. I think that's been a big point for me, has been just letting them know just how much we love them and just how much we care for them, just how much we're praying for them, and really just how proud we are of how well they're dealing with the situation that we find ourselves in. But I think another thing that's been big for us has actually been social media. So we've got an Instagram account and a Facebook account for obviously parents, because a lot of the kids won't be on social media, but it's just encouraging parents to get involved with that, getting their kids to send in pictures of their crafts, videos, them playing the games that we've been doing on the videos, loads of different things. And something that I've tried to do kind of since the turn of the year really is actually message parents and ask for kind of praise reports and prayer requests, so that one, we can pray for the kids in what they're going through, what they need prayer for, but we can then include that in the videos as well. And we actually had a great story, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago now, where I messaged a parent and she messaged me back to say that her child was really struggling to connect with, not just with church online, but with everything online, with school online, and she was having to work really hard just to try and get him to do his schoolwork and things like this. But she sent in a praise report for him. We put it in that video for Sunday, and she messaged me to say that he'd watched it, he'd really enjoyed it, and just loved being a part of it. So we tried to do much of that as well, of getting the kids involved and making them feel a part of it as well.
Yeah, that's right. And just making it personal.
Yeah.
Actually mentioning their names on the
Yeah,
videos, which
100%.
has been really powerful
Yeah.
for engaging them. So in terms of other churches then, Jacob, how would you advise other churches to maybe make a start on providing stuff online if they haven't already done that?
I think from my point of view, it's better to get something out there than to have nothing out there. Even if like your capabilities are short, you've got a small team, or you've not maybe got a high tech camera. We don't have high tech cameras. All the stuff we film at the moment is filmed by people at home with their iPhones or their Androids or whichever device they've got. So yeah, just literally, if it's just you, then maybe just get something out there, maybe on Instagram or maybe on Facebook or whatever you use, whatever social media you use. Just get something out there that, you know, is able for the kids to watch, the parents to show their children. We use YouTube because most kids are already on YouTube. Most kids tend to have tablets these days, or YouTube on the TV or whatever, so they can easily connect and watch. But social media works just as well. We've seen the more stuff we put out on social media, the more interaction we've found we have. Recently, we've worked really hard to maintain that social media schedule of kind of having 2 or 3 posts a week, just to and making sure there's videos of the kids doing like the memory verse and stuff like that as well. Is something that you could do and get the kids involved as well. Like we had a guy in our kids ministry actually do the prayer and praise section a few weeks ago. His mum filmed him and sent in the video, and that was part of our Sunday morning experience. So yeah, just do something, get something out there. And if you'd like got any questions about, you know, how to get on YouTube, or just questions about filming or anything like that, then please, you know, get in touch with us. We'd love to help you out in any way we can, help you get started.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Well, I think you've got maybe 1 or 2 questions for me.
I have, yeah.
Okay.
So now we're going to talk about, obviously we talked about doing church online and kids ministry online. Now we're going to talk about how we can make it safe and get it right when actually they come back into the building, to make sure it's a safe space. So speaking about that, my first question for you is, how have you managed to create a safe space and reassure families that they're actually bringing their children into a safe space on a Sunday morning?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it you know, it can be a bit fearful coming back into the building after such a long time, and obviously we're still within this pandemic. So I think for us, the first thing that we looked at really was the guidelines, and coming up with a risk assessment that suited the place where we're meeting, and just going through that really very like with a fine tooth comb, making sure that we had covered all bases really. And I think, what you have to do then is look at your space, think about how many children would you be able to accommodate safely. So we kind of decided to look at just the age range of 4 to 10 years, because they're the kids who are in school, and they kind of understand from going back to school what the structures are, and they could kind of understand the social distancing side of it. So that's what we kind of did. We went into the room, we actually physically marked out the spaces. I mean, we've decided not to use tables just because we don't have many tables, but some of you might want to use tables spaced out, but we marked out the floor so that every child had an individual space to sit within. And then what we then decided was, well, what do the kids need resource-wise for every session that they're in? Because obviously they all needed their own resources, so that there's not that sharing of resources. And so we thought about that, we thought that through. We also used a seating plan, so because we're booking people into services when we are back in the building, then it meant that we could come up with a seating plan, which means that you can put siblings together so that they can kind of be together, work together, help each other without that fear that they've got to social distance all the time. So that was another thing that we thought of. And then once we'd covered all of those aspects, we did a little video, which we put out for the parents. We might have to do another one of those.
The walkthrough, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was a walkthrough of what the parent and child would expect from coming into our children's session. And just, again, to reassure parents that we thought about everything, that we were creating this safe space, and we were keeping it clean and thinking about the children first. Yeah, I think that's everything.
Yeah, it's good. We also obviously wore visors. And when it came to like snack times and things like that, we wore gloves when we were distributing things, just to make sure everything was safe and sanitised. Safe, sanitised space, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Also, a big thing obviously is managing the team and things like that. So, have you managed to prepare your team for each session?
Yeah. So that's the next thing really. That's really important, that you have a team that feel comfortable about going in to that space and working with the children. And that's important. They need to feel comfortable about that. And then just having enough team then to cover your sessions, really, because we were hit by COVID, weren't we, the first time round. So I think it's important that you know you've got enough people who can sort of drop in if somebody can't make it, and we can do the swaps and all that sort of thing. So that's really important too. I think you've got to communicate clearly with your team what the procedures are, because obviously the procedures are going to be different. They're going to be new. We've got to think about certain things. We've all got to be thinking about the same things when it comes to the risk assessment, things like putting on gloves and also having clear roles for your team so that there's not cross-contamination. So that was one thing that we thought about. So, for instance, we're on a team together. Jacob does the media because he's an expert at that. But
I won't go that far.
Yeah, well, you're more of an expert than I am, put it that way. But just having you on the media...
Yeah, just one person. Yeah,
means that nobody's sharing then that equipment, and that's really important to think through. So think through all the roles that you need within your session. We also came up with some golden rules for the kids, didn't we, which were easy to remember. Can you remember them? Well, I've got them written down, so
okay, good.
I don't need to remember. But things like stay in your zone.
Yeah.
Speak, don't shout.
Correct.
Listen to your leaders.
Of course.
And dance, don't sing.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so we kind of incorporated all of those things that the kids have to do or can't do.
Yeah.
And then just came up with these golden rules that we kept reiterating to them so that they knew exactly what they were doing and we knew what they should be doing as well. And I think just the other thing to mention is think through your drop-off and collection, because that's important as well. I mean, depending on what space you've got, for us, It's a room added on to our whole building. So the parents actually usually drop off in that room and then collect them from the same room.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to minimize the number of adults coming into that room. So just think about how you're going to do that in the safest way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's very good. Okay. Have you had to change your program to accommodate social distancing, or how have you gone about that?
Yeah, so I think we had to think about the program, didn't we? Because obviously you can't just do the normal games with everybody running around.
Yeah,
and
planning the games
the
was probably the
crafts
hardest.
with everybody around a table
Yeah.
doing it together. So we had to be really creative. And we had to come up with different elements that we knew the kids could do individually within that space that they've got. I mean, for us, we have the kids for the whole service. You might just have them for part of the service. You might have to think about whether that works efficiently with the social distancing. It might be easier just to take those kids right at the beginning and then have the parents collect them at the end. That's something that you can think through. But for us, we had to think about how we changed that program. And creatively, we came up with a few ideas.
Yeah.
We came up with something called a Lego challenge because we thought that one thing they could have with them within their resources was like a little box of Lego, because most kids love that. And so every session we would do a Lego challenge that kind of fitted in with what we were teaching them that day. And one of our leaders would lead that. And the kids seemed to really enjoy that. We had to think about the craft, so we came up with the idea of having a little craft wallet. So everything was in that wallet for the session, ready before the session as well, a couple of days before, so that any touching, we weren't just adding to it just before the session. And so the crafts had to be led, but the kids had to do it on their own pretty much. With a little bit of input from us. But again, if you've got siblings sat with each other, then they can help each other to do that. Some of the games, we had to be really creative. Jacob, you are brilliant at thinking about ideas for games. But again, games where they can do it sort of individually in their space.
Yeah.
Can you think of any off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, yeah, we played one. I don't know if you've ever played the game Four Corners, where you play some music, everyone dances, the music stops, and they have to go to one of the corners of the room. And out of that, you pick whatever. We played that, but they were in their boxes, and there was different coloured tape in all the corners. And when the music stopped, they went and stood in one of the corners. And this isn't a COVID thing, but this is something that I like to do, is that when I'm playing games with the kids, I don't like it when the kids get out and they have to then sit and watch, which is difficult because that happens sometimes in games, but it can be a little bit boring for the kids that are out. So what we did is we split them into two teams. And if they picked the right corner, the one that got pulled out of the hat, then they got a point for their team. That way the kids can all keep playing and rather than sitting out and watching. That's not a COVID thing, but I thought I'd add that in there while we were talking about it.
Yeah, actually, I was going to mention that as well, that we did use teams and points for the teams. And that seemed to engage the kids really well.
Yeah, because then it's not just them, is it? They're working together as a team. Even though they're separate, there's still a togetherness about it, which is really nice. Especially because we had a couple of children from different campuses as well. So it was a really good way of joining people together without physically joining them together, but you could see the morale across the different boxes of the teammates, which was really great. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what I would say really on the back of all that is that the kids have really loved coming back into church. We were worried at the beginning that the social distancing aspect would really make it so different that it would seem alien to them, but actually we've had kids coming back again and again to the point that we haven't got enough spaces.
We've been full every week, haven't we?
And we've had to come up with a system whereby we allow kids that weren't in on a particular week to get in next week.
Like a priority booking system.
So it's been amazing, really. We were very surprised at the take-up. And actually, we're thinking of doing an extra session because we run 2 services in the morning. So we're going to try when we come back again in a few weeks'
Yeah,
time,
that's right.
to actually put on another session,
Yeah.
just so that we can accommodate more families that way.
Yep.
I don't know whether there's anything else you want to add to that, Jacob.
I think from a lot of the stuff you said, you were saying things like what it came across to me was that it's individual to your kids ministry.
Yeah.
So obviously what we do fits our kids ministry in terms of how many we can have in the room, what kind of activities we do. So you've got to, like, I would advise, if you've not got anything out there, or if you're trying to work out how to get back into the room, go away with your team and just come up with some ideas, and actually go into the room and physically be able to see what you want, what you're expecting to see, and like mark out the room and measure it and things like that, and just get some ideas down, because that's a start. Then
Yeah.
you can kind of move on from there. But as long as you start somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. It can be done.
Yeah,
And the kids can have a great time.
absolutely. Yeah.
Despite things changing so much. And hopefully in June we can all come back together again.
Yeah.
And this will be something in the past. But we hope that helps you. I mean, it's just a few of our ideas that we've tried. It's not exhaustive by any means. And you might even have some ideas for us, or ideas that you want to pass on. If you have any questions, or you want to just put your ideas forward, then what I would suggest is that you just get in touch with Steph at ground level, and I'm sure that she will feed those things back to us and everybody else out there. So thanks for listening, and we hope that helps you in some way.
Yeah, keep doing what you're doing, don't give up.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Bye.